Hi, guys. Hello. Hi. Oh, there are already 5 of you. That's cool. Hi. Hi, John. Um, 1,608. Oh, how did this happen? All good. I finally got my mom a Christmas present today. Um, uh, because I was gonna get her a Christmas present that basically has like her dog on it, and it's like this sweater, and you can like take your pet and you can like engrave your pet on it, which I think is really cool. But basically it takes like a while to make, and the well, for now. Hi, Amphibious. Hi, Kareen. Hi, Michael. um Synethus. So I still don't quite know how to pronounce that word. So please correct me if I'm wrong. Hi, Dawn. Hi, Veronica. But so basically, I had this idea since before I got back from Ukraine, and I wanted to get my mom like a sweatshirt with like her dog on it. It's like embroidered and it's like really cute and whatever. But basically, if you do it online, it's like like there are either these like stores that you don't know what quality sweatshirt they're doing the embroidery on, and then you pay like a bunch of money, and then it comes in and it's like garbage, right? And then there is this brand that does it that's like stupidly expensive. And I was like, well, fuck. I was doing a lot of research, and then I found this like pet store right near my. It's in my neighborhood. I get like stuff for Cindy there, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna get it there. And then I ordered it. Everything was fine, and then their freaking machine got broken, and it takes like 2 weeks to make. So I found out a couple of days ago that their machine is broken, and even if I did it online, I don't have enough time because I'm supposed to fly out on Friday. And I'm like, fantastic. So I went looking for a present for my mom today, and I found these actually very pretty earrings. So I already wrapped them, so I can't show them. But they're these like very pretty earrings, and they're not like they were like affordable, like they weren't like outrageous, and and um, yeah, and I got those. They're very pretty, and I hope she likes them. So that's kind of where we were at with that. You can still get the jumper. Yeah, I think maybe like for her birthday or something. Her birthday is on January 16th. I don't think so this I can't do both the earrings and the sweater. That is too much money at one go. But also the sweater, like it's not like it's not going to get here in time. I'm already going to be gone. So if I can find something similar in Ukraine, I'll look into it. And there is that. But the earrings were really cool, and I thought she would like them, and they look like a very presentable gift. And my mom is like one of those people where she wants to know, or she wants to think that you like went out of your way and out of your budget for her present. And I feel like the earrings, although they weren't out of anyone's budget, they look like they were, versus this sweater wouldn't. So like we're good. My mom is like, she's a very. I said this yesterday, or like whenever we were talking. That my mom is like an interesting person. Her how she sees affection and like love and whatever is like very interesting. So yeah, maybe you can have it sent to her from the shop. No, I mean, they're not going to send it to Ukraine. It's first of all, so like nothing really gets USPS, DHL, FedEx and UPS are not delivering to Ukraine, I think still. So you have to go through like it's a whole process. Like someone has to send it, like someone that you know, and it's really not that big of a deal, to be honest. Like I think she's gonna love the earrings, and like I think it's gonna be fine. It's just, you know, it's like there is no one needs to like worry about my mom's present. Like last thing anyone needs to worry about is my mom's present. Like she's gonna be fine. It's gonna be a-okay. But yeah, that's that. I think I'm almost done on all Christmas presents, to be honest. I still have like a couple that I need to get, but most of them I'm Gucci, you know, on that. Then today I got a little travel like folding thing for Cine, a bowl. It's like a little tiny little like bowl from Amazon. I thought I had like good bowls for travel, but then I found this one that's like 2 bowls and they just fold into like this one kind of like zippy thing, and I was like, wow, this is very convenient. And it was like $10 on Amazon. I can, you know, if anyone is interested, I can at some point send you what it looks like and what it is. I think it's super convenient. Yeah, mostly it's just been packing. Much packing. So much packing. Yeah. So that's what I've been doing for the most part. How are you guys? So for some reason, I thought that today was the 24th and it's the 23rd. So I didn't realize that Christmas is on Monday. So yeah. How are you guys doing? Do you have any fun Christmas plans? Did you realize Christmas was not on Sunday? Because I thought it was. I thought Christmas was on Sunday. Yeah. Oh. You gotta come up. I thought it was Sunday too. It just makes more sense. Like Saturday is Christmas Eve and then Sunday is Christmas. Not like, you know, Sunday is Christmas Eve and Monday is Christmas. Also, Vasilia did not realize that Christmas was not tomorrow.
Well, we don't have our Christmas tree group. So.
Yeah, that's because I'm going to clean up after the live. My part. Mm-hmm. You know, this little creature over here is so feisty. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
You know, yesterday he was like, well, in my apartment, it was always clean. And I'm like, when did you get an apartment? He meant when I was gone. Okay, it was always clean in his apartment when I was gone. Okay. Yeah. Because he has his own apartment, right? I asked him to do a tour. I would really love to see it.
I was taking care of all the plans. I was keeping the apartment like 10 out of 10, like the entire 3 months.
Ah, look at you. How great. You know why? Because I work from home and I'm home 24/7, so I actually do things here. You work from work 24/7.
Yeah, so when I come home, I just really like to be everything organized because it's my cave and I want to feel
no,
like...
you know what's your cave? It's right there. That's your cave. Your room. Honey bunny.
This is the space that we share.
You know, he was like telling me that there are too many things that there are too many of my things everywhere in the apartment, and I was like, oh really? Let me take the couch, the table, the plates, the cutlery. I get it. It's too many of my things. Yes, let me remove all of my things.
I just meant all things that are messy.
Oh yeah. No. See, the way that you said it was literally there are too many of your things around the apartment. So like, you know. Electricity, heat, internet, you know, all of those things, the router, take the coffee machine. Oh yes, the coffee machine, your favorite coffee machine that you use every day.
Everyone's been so rude to me.
Yeah,
of course, because you're watching Yulia. You're her fan, not mine.
Fan.
Okay.
Jesus. Honey
It
bunny.
was expected, you know.
Honey, do you have a celebrity complex?
I don't.
No, you don't? Divorce settlement for the coffee machine. Divorce settlement for the coffee machine. This child is 19 years old and he's gay. He's 19 and gay. We're not getting a divorce. We're not married. This is a 19-year-old child from Ukraine. Hi, Sydney. Why is it that you want my attention so much when I start doing a live? What is it? What is it? What? You could not give a shit less about my presence 5 minutes ago. This is my dog, Sydney. For everyone who is interested. Hi. Hi, JJ. Queen Sydney has arrived, yes. See, this is like it. Thanks, that was wet. See, she literally could not care less about my existence until I start going live. And then she's all over me. She's like, oh my God, how dare you not, how dare you pay attention to something that isn't me? She's currently having like a bliss coma. Like I took her on a 2-hour errand walk. I let her sniff stuff. So she hates harnesses, but like I have to have her in a harness for the airport. So I've been like putting her in a harness lately and I love the harness. She hates it. She sees it and she runs away. But it's been such a bliss to have her in a harness because it's like a lead harness. So it's like here and it pulls her like little paws back when she's trying to pull. And I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. I should have insisted on the harness from the very beginning. Hi, bud. How's it going? So, yes, what are everyone's Christmas plans? Because let me just like pet Cindy while we talk about this, and then we're gonna get into the news. While we catch up, I'm gonna pet this creature, hoping that she's gonna chill out, which I'm not sure that's gonna happen given the stare she's giving me. Oh. Nope, she's still not gone, so it's gonna take a while for children. No, but see, like, there is the thing. French bulldogs are not just like for children. They're literally like toddlers. Having a French bulldog is very similar to having a toddler. It needs your attention all the time. It constantly puts like random things in its mouth. Like, I don't know, it whines, it cries. It does all these wonderful things that you wouldn't want a dog to do because normally dogs don't do them, right? But these dogs do. Sorry. I'm trying to make it moodier lighting. So wow, this is a very not favorable angle for this sweater looks horrendous on you. Anyways, yeah, I think this is better. It was too bright before. Booties for filthy airport and airplane floors. So I have paw wipes on me all the time. So I'll bring those. She hates the booties. She's not going to wear them. And she has very small paws for a dog her size. So none of the boots ever fit her. Like the ones that fit her paws are too small for for her like leg, and the ones that fit her leg are too big for her paws. So she hates the booties, and they're not her thing. It's never gonna happen. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Working then relaxing as little as possible. Like a Tuesday. Plus I'll get your coffee. What is this? What is this flirting between John and Odin here in the chat? Who's getting who coffee? When? Anyways, so there are not that many news today because, well, it's before Christmas and it's kind of a slow day. I'm sure that a lot of reporters are off. I will say, hi, Gord. I will say that so you know how I was telling you that I'm really, really fed up with Kyiv Independent? So they actually found themselves in the middle of a huge scandal because a lot of Ukrainians have been have been calling them out on the fact that they have been pushing like propaganda-like narratives, that they have been posting clickbait, that they have been that they have been you know, using unverified information and all of this stuff. And you know, as a normal, very, very responsible news publication that was formerly considered credible, and I say formerly with the utmost responsibility, instead of responding and saying, hey, we apologize for this, this, and that, they responded blaming the readers and covering themselves with the armed forces of Ukraine. And I mean, like, I legitimately have never seen anything more ludicrous than that response from the Kyiv Independent. And that just kind of solidified what I was thinking recently, that like, I'm just super not happy with their reporting, with their publication. And I just think their egos are too large now. So basically they posted this editorial, right? And this editorial was basically them saying why we don't shy away from posting unpleasant stories. So what they said in that was basically, let me find it. I wonder if they deleted it because they love doing that recently. Like, I will get there. But the reason why I'm so gung-ho on speaking about it is because it's a very painful subject to me, because I think we have so many Western publications that are doing what the Kyiv Independent is doing, that are harming Ukraine and Ukraine's war effort. And it's really, really upsetting to see Kyiv Independent turn into that, right? So here are a couple of things that people have brought up. So the Kyiv Independent posted a story recently that said that Zelensky and Zaluzhny are in a fight. They cited anonymous sources within the defense ministry that as their source, and they basically based most of their argument on the fact that they haven't been seen in public together for over 2 months. So the readers of Kyiv Independent started commenting on the article, basically giving them all the dates that they have in fact been seen together at the same time. And it was not over 2 months. It was actually multiple times over the period of those 2 months. And it was like maybe a week or two. And the Kyiv Independent then amended the article, saying that previously we posted a version of this article that said that Zaluzhny and Zelensky have been not seen for 2 months, but actually they have been seen more recently. They did not say when, because their entire argument was based on the fact that these are the signals that they're in a fight. And what they were reporting on was rumors, and they were aggregating these rumors. And Ukrainians evidently got incredibly pissed because, like, you know, the Western publications do this and it hurts Ukraine's war effort, the bill, you know, like it hurts our perception of Ukraine in Europe and stuff. And now Kyiv Independent is doing it. So this was one of the things. And they wrote this entire article being like, people don't realize that we are posting unpleasant stories in the name of like unbiased journalism and like blah, blah, blah. And people are throwing things like clickbait in our faces and like whatever. Basically, they were blaming the readers. And then they were saying that we post unpleasant stories due to like out of respect for the armed forces of Ukraine. So people know the real situation. The thing is, no one's upset about them posting unpleasant stories, you know, like the shortage of supply on the front lines or like bad commanders. Like, yeah, that should be public. Like, that's fine. What people are upset about is literal clickbait titles, misinformation, rumors, sources that cannot be verified, unchecked sources, and quite blatantly posting information that isn't even true. So there is that. So people started responding in the comments, and I'll read you some of these responses, and then I will read you the write-up from Anastasia Lopatina, who is one of the most famous Kyiv Independent journalists, and the ego and the responses that have followed to this criticism really just showed me that I don't trust them, and that it's not about journalism, it's about their egos. And I will then also name you some other reasons why people were criticizing them. You tell me if you think it's valid or not. So here are some things that people are writing. No, you're getting criticized for forcing false narratives, misinformation, and generally bad journal. Can you please not do that right now?
Okay.
No, you're getting criticized for forcing false narratives, misinformation, and generally bad journalism. But yet again, you manipulate the narrative and lie that the criticism is because you're impartial. What a fucking waste. This was a choice, and this includes an article that says "Opinion: A Year of War and Little Peace" by Richard Haas. So, an editorial posted by Richard Haas. Richard Haas has also posted such editorials. Former Council on Foreign Relations chief defends Russia meetings. Former U.S. officials, such as Richard Haas, have held secret Ukraine talks with Russians. In another article, Richard Haas and this other guy, Kupchak, who is Russian, wrote an opinion piece in a different publication saying how to force Ukraine from the battlefield into the negotiation table. Those are the people that Kyiv Independent gives space to write opinion pieces. Obviously, Ukrainians are outraged, and I think it's very reasonable. Hi, Niels. Then Anastasia Klimash, who is like a pretty big person in the Ukrainian info space on Twitter. She's a Ukrainian, and she posts a lot of information and a lot of opinions and stuff like that, and kind of fights disinformation. I personally like her. This was her comment. Guys, you're yourself now an unpleasant story. Maybe report on that. Don't pretend it's impartiality when you're posting unverified claims and opinion pieces from Russian shills. Your claim of impartiality doesn't hold when you're actively pushing false narratives. It's not impartiality that's being criticized. It's manipulation and lies. Convenient how an editor's note suddenly justifies an article based on a lie. It's disgraceful, not journalism. So also that article that they wrote about Zelensky and Zaluzhny, where they were basing their entire speculation that there is a rift between the two on the fact that they haven't been seen in public for 2.5 months, and anonymous sources that cannot be verified from the defense ministry, when they wrote that note saying, oh no, they actually have been seen in public more recently, but didn't say when, because it's been it basically breaks their entire argument. People start calling them out and being like, okay, so instead of apologizing for lying, you wrote this note that literally shows that your entire speculation is bullshit, and you didn't apologize for following rumors. So they just deleted the piece and didn't say anything. That was it. That was their reaction to the criticism. So this is one. Two, there is this person called Oleg Sukhov, who is Russian, who used to work for the Moscow Times. Then he worked for the Kyiv Post, which, for those of you who don't know, Kyiv Post is a publication that was owned by a very questionable individual. And a lot of journalists from Kyiv Post quit and formed Kyiv Independent because basically, and it happened a couple of months before the invasion, because their journalistic freedoms were being taken away and they were given narratives to write about. And those were Russia favorable narratives, right? So they quit to form Kyiv Independent instead. So Oleg Sukhov was one of those people, and he used to write for Moscow Times. He moved to Ukraine in, I believe, 2014 to report on the truth. So Oleg Sukhov is an analytical journalist on corruption. And his sole purpose of writing for the Kyiv Independent is to write about corruption in Ukraine. He's a Russian. It doesn't matter whether he's a good journalist, a bad journalist, whether he's a good Russian, a bad Russian, whatever the fuck he is. In the entirety of the info space in Ukraine, all of us are asking foreign publications. Also, I see there is an ad coming, so let me wait a second, and then I will continue the speech, because I'm guessing a lot of you are not going to hear it. So you let me know when this ad is gone. I did tell YouTube to place ads conservatively, but I don't know what that means. Cindy, stop. I don't know what that means in the context of YouTube. Also, yeah, Grumpy, I'm not live on TikTok because this account is literally, I will have 6 to 10 people, and they're just jumping between here and there, so it makes no sense. Cindy, stop. You don't get ads? Oh, wow, look at you. Good. Okay, so basically, it doesn't matter if he's a good Russian, a bad Russian, whatever the F he is, okay? Like, he's a Russian. And it is just inappropriate to have a Russian, even if he fled Russia for political reasons and his views in 2014 and came to Ukraine, write about corruption in Ukraine, because we as Ukrainians are asking Western publications to stop giving Russians a voice about Ukraine, because there are Ukrainians that are not giving a voice, and we are fighting for a chance to be in the info space, right? And we constantly get dismissed. So having the largest English-speaking publication in Ukraine have a Russian write about corruption in Ukraine is kind of a slap in the face, because if we're asking Western publications to stop doing it, but our own largest publication does that, then there is no merit to what we're saying, because, hey, Ukrainian publications do it, why can't we, right? One, and two, it's inappropriate, right? And it's not okay. Like, there are tons of Ukrainian journalists that are just as good at analyzing corruption that would need that job. And the priority should go to a Ukrainian, not to a Russian who fled Russia and like whatever. And he worked for Moscow Times, and there are tons of Russian narratives at Kyiv Independent. Like, it's just inappropriate. So instead of saying, like, I don't know, instead of coming out and saying something, Anastasia Lopatina, who is one of the most famous journalists from the Kyiv Independent, came out and basically defended him, saying that he's a fantastic person. She knows him personally. He's great. And that it's crazy to criticize him, and that people are just wild in criticizing him, and that he left Russia for political reasons and he deserves to be where he is. And that people are just like, what the fuck? Why are you even criticizing this? Basically, she wasn't saying it in that, like, with those words, but it was like that type of tone where it's like, how dare you criticize this man? He's done such an amazing job for Ukraine and for the information space of Ukraine and for all of this stuff. And like, you should just shut up and like let him write, right? And it's kind of like, dude, people in Ukraine, right? Like, foreigners go to Kyiv Independent for a Ukrainian perspective in English, right? None of your reporting represents a Ukrainian perspective for like a while now. We are outraged at you. And we are telling you that we don't want to see a Russian journalist write about corruption in Ukraine, and that there are Ukrainian journalists that you could hire to do that, and that you're doing inappropriate things. And instead of listening to to the readers and being like, hey, I'm, like, we might have fucked up, they're yelling at the readers, telling the readers that they're wrong. And then they continue. So like, if you look at their comment sections, it's going to be like tons of criticism from both foreigners and Ukrainians, and they dismiss it. But then there will be like 4 to 5 comments of people who are like, we love you. It's impartiality in journalism. You're fantastic. And they'll go and retweet that. Like, just insanity. Insanity. No, they don't think that he will have less bias. He was just their colleague at Kyiv Post, and they took him with them before the invasion. But it's just before the full-scale invasion. After the full-scale invasion, it's inappropriate. Like, it doesn't matter if he's your colleague and you love him very much. There is a whole country asking you, please lead by example, because how are we asking foreign publications and how are we expecting them to not put Russians to write about these things in Ukraine if you have a Russian writing about things in Ukraine and they're just like, yeah, no, we love him. And so here is a response that's so incredibly entitled. So this is Anastasia Lopatina, one of the most famous journalists at Kyiv Independent. And she has 597.5 thousand followers. That is an incredible number. Kyiv Independent in total has 2.1 million followers. So that is like 1/4 of their subscribers base is subscribed to her, right? And this is her response to all of the valid criticism, saying this. Some people fail to realize that we are not a PR agency, and our only job is to uncover the truth. It's especially ridiculous that those alleged supporters of Ukrainians, alleged supporters of Ukraine, seem to not care about soldiers who risk their lives on a daily basis, their stories, fears, and opinions. So she's trying to make it look like people are outraged that they posted a piece from the front line where the soldiers were unhappy and fearful of the future and fearful of the war and were unsure what to do. And she's trying to make it seem like people are outraged that they did not post that everything in Ukraine is going glorious, right? That's not what we're outraged about. I actually think that piece is great in a lot of ways. Like, you know, I think that I've talked to a lot of soldiers myself. A lot of the times they are down, their spirits are down, they don't know what to do. I think it's you know, it's important to hear from them. They are the people on the front lines, but this is not what she's doing. She's using that piece to justify and to mislead people into thinking that people are just unhappy that they're posting unpleasant narratives. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about blatant propaganda, unverified and unchecked sources, lies that you're posting, and literally aggregation of rumors. That's what people are mad about. Freedom of press is the cornerstone of democracy in a healthy society. Suppressing unpleasant stories and calling for journalist silence isn't what Ukraine stands for. So this is gaslighting. And the fact that, you know, this is the approach that some of the key journalists from Kyiv Independent took, and that Kyiv Independent took in response to criticism from its readers, is just, it drives me crazy and it shocks me, because this is the type of stuff that Russians do. They're unhappy about being criticized for something very reasonable and valid. They did not apologize for writing a massive piece that was a lie and a rumor that they couldn't back, and then they were proven wrong and they were called out on it. And instead of apologizing, they deleted the piece, and then like, were mad at people for talking about this piece. They published people who are known Russian shills. They have Russians in their editorial team, and they stand up for them. They don't listen to anything negative about them on any social media, and they just amplify the things that people say that are positive, which are, the ratio right now is like 1 to 5, 1 to 10, I would even say. It's ridiculous. Like, they're talking about freedom of journalism and freedom of press. Meanwhile, they're actually twisting the truth, gaslighting people, are mad at people, are not apologizing for how inappropriate they are and how irresponsible their journalism has been. And they're trying to cover their tracks by turning it over onto the readers that called them out. And like, here's the thing. I got an offer a couple of months ago to work with Kyiv Independent on their social media. And I was, at that time, I started noticing some narratives that I really didn't like, that were like very obviously biased against Zelensky. Like, again, Zelensky is not perfect, but like the things that they were writing were like stop it, please. Like, it was just sowing tensions. Seriously, it was so irresponsible. And I kind of had like my doubts, whatever, but I was like, you know, it's Kyiv Independent. It's a huge publication. Like, that's, you know, it's like a big deal to work with. So, and the girl that reached out to me that runs their social media is actually fantastic. I think Masha is great. And I think her intentions are very good. She moved to Ukraine from Australia, moved back to Ukraine from Australia because she couldn't stand away. And she's been living in Australia for a long time. And she just wanted to help her country. And then she got this, job at Kyiv Independent. And she was like, oh my God, fantastic. And so she's great. And I hope we're going to work on other projects in the future together, because I actually really like her. But the more I started, but I was still kind of wary, right? And the more I was kind of reading their articles, the more I was reading these things, the more I was like, I hate this publication. Like, literally the only thing I like about it right now is their social media ran by Masha. But I can't just work with Masha and do this and represent and associate myself with something that I really don't respect anymore. So I wrote this sort of letter of, it's not a resignation letter because I wasn't really working with them yet. It we were planning to work together. Like we were planning projects, right? And I wrote to them and I said, I'm so sorry, but like, I can't do this. I really like, I wrote to Masha, I said, I really like her because I do, and I would love to work with her in the future. But I noticed these things about the Kyiv Independent that I don't stand for and that I absolutely do not agree with. And, I'm not gonna stand by that. And so I rejected basically the offer to work with them. So for me, it's like, I'm not, the reason why I'm telling you this is because I want to make it known that this is not me being like upset at Kyiv Independent and being like, oh my gosh, like they're this big publication and I'm just like upset that they're, I'm upset at them and I'm just like shitting on them. No, like I could have worked with them. I said no. And I have like all the proof to this too, because I am not going to stand by whatever the fuck is happening there. I think that it's become, I wrote this on my Twitter in response to them publicly too. I said that at this point, I see Kyiv Independent as cheap yellow press, because that's the manner in which they've been reporting. And it's really sad to me because I used to love them and I thought they had so much potential. And it was such a great thing for Ukraine to have this massive, fantastic, independent publication that talks about Ukrainian English to such a large audience. And instead, their egos got the best of them, and now they're pushing their own agendas and they're being irresponsible in their reporting and they're doing these things. I think it's so fucked up. So yeah, so that's just something that I wanted to talk about, because basically I'm not telling you to do or not to do something. But if you want to if you are a supporter of Kyiv Independent, because they do have that membership program, please reevaluate that, because because they just don't deserve it. And if you want to invest your $5 a month or however much that membership is worth into a media that's worth it, Svidomi Media is fantastic. So I will make a disclaimer. I did work with them, but I don't make any profit from working with them. It's a collaboration. And the reason why I really like them is because while I was working with them, they were I still am in touch with them, and I'm planning on doing season 2 of the podcast with them. Because I really like the podcast. I really like the idea, and I just want to continue doing it. But what I do like about them is that they're in Ukraine, but they're reporting to Western audiences, because they have both a Ukrainian channel and an English channel. So Svidomi and Svidomi English, or ENG. And their English channel is aimed at Western audiences, right? But they're in Ukraine. And while they speak English, they have no knowledge really of the Western audiences. And so for that reason, they've reached out to people like me who do, because I live in the West. And very frequently they would ask me for like topics that are worth covering. Like, what do people want to hear about? What are people missing in the information space? Like they want suggestions, like they are a good media for the people, because they actually listen to comments. They actually take into account what you're saying, like they're good, they're great. And I love working with their journalists. And I mean, personal bias, there is this girl, Ola, she's fantastic. She works for them, Ola Kruhli, and she works for the podcasting and digital side, and she is really cool, and I absolutely adore her. But also, I just, their team is very nice. They're very sweet. For instance, everything I hear about Kyiv Independent journalists from my friends that have spoken to them, everyone says that they have horrendously inflated egos, insanely inflated egos. And they just deem themselves like the gods of journalism, because they skyrocketed into this fame, right? And they're unpleasant. And I've seen multiple chats between people who know them, who DM'd them about these propagandistic narratives and irresponsible reporting, and the way that they respond is so condescending too. While I would say that everyone at Svidomi is incredibly pleasant and very sweet. And for instance, one of their founder, Anastasia Bakulina, who is so nice. I didn't even know she was the founder. like I've spoken to her so many times, but she's so down to earth and like so. I didn't know she was I didn't know she was the CEO of like Svidomi Media until she got a 25 under 25 award for running and creating a news enterprise, Svidomi, and like taking it that far. And I was like, running and creating an enterprise? I'm like, wait, hold on a minute. But yeah, she's very sweet, and I really like them because they are the way that they try to, you know, cover the topics is very unbiased, and the way that they understand like responsible journalism, and they don't shy away from unpleasant stories. But they're also not like aggregating propaganda and not aggregating like untrustworthy sources. They give context, but like without, you know, without too much like personal opinions and stuff like that. They're very good. I really do suggest that you try them out. And if you pay money to Kyiv Independent, maybe consider redirecting that to Svidomi. They're a much smaller publication. They don't have nearly as much exposure as the Kyiv Independent does, but they have their website, they have an Instagram, they have a Twitter, and you know, I do think I think they're very good, and I think they're, oh my gosh, sorry. I think they're very good, and they have so far been very credible and very, you know, and very, like I've been following them. So by the time they reached out to me to do this podcast together, I followed them for a while. And we did the podcast, like we started doing it like over a year ago. And I was very pleasantly surprised because in this entire time, I haven't seen any like reporting in Ukraine that they've done that has ticked a box or something of being like, what is that? You know, I think they're phenomenal. And I think that you guys should give them a chance if you're looking for a good news source. So yeah, I'll write what you should look up. So this is what you should be looking up if you are looking for them on social media. And this is what you should be looking up if you're looking for their website. Svidomi means conscientious in Ukrainian. So yeah, I think it's also a very, very good name as well. And I actually invited Anastasia Bakulina, who is the founder of Svidomi, which I found out recently, to speak on journalistic transparency and like, you know, the difference between reporting during the war and reporting, you know, kind of how, like, you know, how the reporting and how their job kind of changed since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, that transparency in journalism, also how the independent media has been like a beacon of trust of the people in Ukraine for a long time now. We've always been more privy to trusting independent news sources than trusting mass media, because mass media was always owned by like Russian oligarchs or people connected to Russian oligarchs. And since Gungadze, which is something that I hope we can talk about on the podcast, we have been trusting independent news sources way more in Ukraine than anything else. And that also created a cult of independent journalism where people kind of like, you know, where journalists have very large egos in a lot of cases. So yeah. Oh my gosh, Kyiv Independent took Bild as a source. Bild talks yeah, I know Bild is like yellow press, but that's the thing. Another thing is that, like, you know, like they'll quote Fox News or like, I don't know, some random, like the problem with Ukrainian journalists and a lot of the times is that when they use Western sources, they do not use good sources. They literally use everything because they don't know what's good and what isn't. And I'm just like, how do you not do basic research to know what you're quoting, you know? And I think a lot of journalists do that because they just don't know which sources are trustworthy and which aren't. And it's just kind of like, But yeah, Kyiv Independent quotes like Bild and a lot of sources like that a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen people quote Fox News, and it's like, I understand that they're just trying to get information out of there, but they're not giving you context. Like, they're just repeating what people said, right? And it's like, and it's news aggregation, but then it's yeah, yeah. Alrighty. The Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Mark Rutte, informs about the decision of the Dutch government to start preparing the transfer of 18 F16s. And then later in the day, it became known that these F16s can arrive in Ukraine within a week, according to ISW. Although Dutch Prime Minister Rutte did not confirm the timing of the delivery of the F-16s, a recent strategy document from the Ministry of Defense of Estonia stated that the Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, and Belgium have already committed to donate F-16s to Ukraine by the end of the year of 2023, and that's indicated in the report. Michael, yeah, so that's the point. Like, when journalists make a mistake and issue a correction, that's totally fine. We all make mistakes. The problem with Kyiv Independent is that they don't admit to their mistakes. They made an array of really, really bad reporting. And I mean, like, not checking sources, quoting Russian shills, like letting people write opinion pieces who write articles like how to push Ukraine from the battlefield to the negotiation table. Like, they've been doing all of this stuff, and people started calling them out, and instead of apologizing and like kind of admitting to, you know, having an oversight or like something like that, right? They just blamed the people who read them. And they literally like just gaslit them. And I'm just like, it's wild. I think that their reaction to people criticizing them is much worse than them like doing all of this stuff. Like, sometimes you get sometimes you get like so absorbed in, you know, in the environment around you and in like reporting and like whatever, and maybe like your ego does get a bit of a boost when you get so popular so fast, right? And so maybe you get like lost in it a little bit. That's okay. But if they admitted to it, and if their reaction was like humble and normal and listening to the people and, you know, trying to correct what they did, that would be okay. But their reaction was so much worse than what they did. It was just so gross. Also, yes, I do agree with Gord. If you can like this stream, that would be very helpful. So please don't forget to like it, because that does help the stream, you know, be shown to more people. Lost in the power of it, not good. Yeah, exactly. The Japanese government has decided to transfer missiles to the Patriot air defense system to the United States. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said they would replenish American stocks depleted by military aid to Ukraine. The move would also give the U.S. flexibility to send more modern air defense assets to Ukraine. Japan is a licensed producer of missiles before the Patriot. We talked about Japan a little on the previous stream, and how important it is that they are, in fact, kind of abandoning their neutrality and really are going further and further in on supporting Ukraine. Shoot a Patriot missile at the like button. They're very effective. That's funny, Travis. Actually, that's a great joke. Don't shoot anything at your computer screen, but do please. I mean, I don't know if it shows up over here for you as well, but for me, the like button is right there. So if you would like to press it, you know, I would be very grateful. Switzerland joined the 12th package of EU sanctions against Russia. It introduced restrictions on 61 physical and 86 legal entities. Among them are heads of companies that support the military and industrial potential of the Russian Federation, as well as members of the Central Election Commission of Russia. Points for honesty. Wait, Japan. Wait, also Grant, you said something earlier, but I missed it. Hi, Grant. Wait, I was gonna read it and then I didn't. I watch chat on YouTube and use a pop out from my FreeTube app for the video. 0 ads. Oh, cool. Their island back since they're still at war with Russia. Yeah, actually, Japan is still formally at war with Russia because they've never actually reached a formal agreement over the northern islands. Every time I want to say northern islands, I end up saying Northern Ireland. So over the northern islands in Japan, that Russia called Kuril Islands, and Japanese people are understandably incredibly upset over it, and it's their territory that Russia just and sorry, I lost my train of thought because I started listening. I started reading Robert's comment. I started listening Robert's comment. I started reading Robert's comment. But so these technically World War II never ended because there's still the dispute over the island between Japan and Russia, to which they formally have never found an agreement to, and they're still technically at war over these islands. Okay. Can you expand on the workout in Siberia? What do you mean by the workout in Siberia? There are still 4 transport corridors open for North Korean and Chinese shipments into Russia. Destination Rostov-on-Don. So Rostov is actually very close to the border with Ukraine, and that's where Russia sends a lot of its equipment into the battlefield on Ukraine, because they can just take the loop through Crimea. Also, they can also send it through Donetsk, occupied Donetsk and Luhansk. But I'm not sure what you mean by, can you expand on the workout in Siberia? So Russia's main GLOCs and transportation lines actually are trains. And if you disable Russian rail systems, they're not going to be able to transport anything because they are just not prepared for it. So they're using the rail from China and from North Korea to deliver weapons and systems like that to the battlefield. They are also using cargo planes with Iran. So North Korea is allied with Russia. So there is nothing is going to happen with those corridors. The corridor that I see. Okay, so this is what you're probably talking about. You're probably talking about the underground tunnel. So that rail system is going to be we still don't know the extent of the damage there because and Russia is purposely keeping it hidden, and it's really hard to find out the extent of the damage because of this, so it's not necessarily a corridor, it's a tunnel. It was built in the Soviet Union, and according to people who are working on it, it was one of the hardest things to work on because there was just so many, it's a very deep tunnel that had to be, that took a lot of work to create because it's in between these rocks. It's a whole thing, but it's only used for cargo shipments. Therefore, it's very rarely open to civilian eyes or cameras. So you can't really take pictures from inside of the tunnel. There was a massive explosion in that tunnel that damaged the railway. Now that tunnel is used the most for shipments from China and North Korea. So realistically, it's going to be much harder now for China and North Korea to deliver shipments to Russia through rail. However, they can still use cargo airplanes, and Russia can still send send cargo airplanes for any of those supplies. Obviously, it's going to take more time, it's going to be less efficient, but it's still doable. So yes, one of their main transportation systems for supplies from China and North Korea is now quite screwed. But the other transportation systems are not nearly as efficient as this one because since it was underground and since it was built specifically for those purposes, it was like a speed railway system. The railway systems near it are very slow. And by that, I mean like the tracks are so shallow and they're so old and they're so unmaintained that I believe the largest speed a train can go at on those tracks is like up to 10 kilometers per hour. That's really bad. Really bad. So yeah, basically that explosion screwed up a lot. Quite screwed, that works for me. Yeah, I do like to I do like to use normal language in order to explain things. But yeah, that tunnel is fucked. And so far it's been closed and hasn't been functional, but we don't know how fucked it is. If it's just about the rails, then they can likely fix it at some point. If it's about the tunnel structure, then it is something they will not be able to fix for a very long time, because again, the tunnel is like drilled through these rocks. And if there was an explosion and any of these rocks started kind of like collapsing onto the tunnel, then the whole structure is just basically at some point going to collapse. So it's just going to be really, really hard to do something about it. But the problem is that we don't really have enough information to make that judgment, because again, no one has really seen good pictures of the extent of the damage, and obviously Russia doesn't want people to see. So for now, we don't really have a lot to go off of. We just have we can go off of the information from, you know, from the creation of the tunnel and from the engineers who worked on it, and engineers who know this tunnel now, and you know, just kind of make predictions on what could have happened in example A, or what could have happened in example B. So there is that. I hope that answers your question, because I went on like a couple of tangents there. Also, quick reminder, we are running a fundraiser that has been very slow, and I know because it's Christmas and everybody's like buying presents and has so many things to do other than fundraisers. And a lot of you have donated, which is how we got to $1,600. $1,608.19. I just did not put that in the description, but it's $1,608.19 out of $15,000 necessary to buy 6 DJI Mavic Pro drones. It does seem like a large amount, and it is the largest fundraiser I have ever ran. And I am very excited for it. Also terrified, because it's been going so slow. But if you have $1, $2, $3, $4, $5, $7, $10, $2 million, some kronas, some liras, some Deutsche Marks, or literally any of the currency that is not in circulation anymore, your donations are always welcome. So please do consider donating any amount of money that you can to the fundraiser, because every single dollar helps it go. And yes, the Grumpy is going to post the page for the initiative. So it's beacons.ai/fundraiser. I created a link that basically explains where the funds go and what we are buying with them. And I will say, so one DJI Mavic Pro 3 drone in the US, non-refurbished, is $2,199, so $2,199 plus tax, depending which state you ship to. You can find them refurbished cheaper, but I averaged it out from different countries, because again, you can buy them from Poland or from neighboring countries, you never know. So I averaged it out and I made it $2,500 per drone. But if there is, so at the end of the fundraiser, I'll be taking all the funds and sending them to Third Separate Assault Brigade, and they will be buying the drones. And for all the money that is left over, if there is any, they're going to buy batteries to be able to operate those drones longer, because every time that we buy drones, we forget that those things die very fast, and in most cases they also need like battery packs. So fret not, none of it is going to go wasted. It's going to go for the same drone cause, and make those drones more effective, basically. So there is that. And if you would like to donate, you can donate in this link that Grumpy just posted in the chat, and you will have PayPal, Venmo, Revolut, and Monobank as your options. And yes, we will talk about Courage Bridge, but in a little while. Okay, so The Latvian post office has initiated inspections of parcels and letters destined for Russia and Belarus to ensure adherence to EU sanctions. A newspaper published a photograph displaying a letter sent by Andrzej Dmuchowski, a Riga resident. The images reveal an open envelope affixed with a security check sticker. Latvian Post has attributed these new measures to align with the EU sanctions. As per regulations, senders are required to complete a declaration detailing the content of the shipment. Employees at the Latvian Post Office are authorized to inspect packages to verify their compliance with the provided list. Notably, even envelopes containing letters are subject to inspection. Consequently, warnings have been issued in Riga indicating that if money, bank cards, chips, or SIM cards are discovered in such letters or parcels, they will be detained. That's actually, I mean, it is kind of draconian, right? But because of how much Russia has been evading sanctions, especially using their like friends, relatives, shills, whatever, in neighboring countries because they have residencies, I think it's a very justified measure. I think it's justified to check parcels that are going in and out of Latvia to Russia. I think it's reasonable because, hey, Russians are using bank cards to avoid sanctions and be able to like use money in Russia, right? Because their banks are garbage at this point. They are trying to get SIM cards and, install like apps and stuff like that have been deleted from the App Store. And like, this is one thing that we have been saying about the Russian opposition and the Russian opposition to the invasion, right? It's not about the atrocities. First of all, Russian opposition is ineffective, impotent, and barely existent. But secondly, they don't oppose the atrocities that are happening in Ukraine. Otherwise, they would have been way more vocal abroad, and there are tons of them who have fled abroad. The reason why they sometimes oppose the situation is not because of the Ukrainians, is not because of the imperialism. Like the people who don't support the war, they still support the core of Russian imperialism. What they don't support is the fact that they can't go to McDonald's, is the fact that they can't use modern banks, the fact that they can't pay with Apple Pay, and the fact that their basic daily comforts have been taken away from them. And that is the limit of their care. And trust me when I say this, there is this initiative that was done that a lot of people didn't hear about, and I'm gonna read it to you. And it concerns the Russian opposition. And, people have said many times, oh, but Russians are just brainwashed. They're not getting the real news, blah, blah, blah. So here is one of the people that was actually one of the heads of the initiative to get real news to Russia in the beginning of the full-scale invasion. Also, remember that the invasion has been there since 2014. It just wasn't full-scale, and Russians haven't been doing anything about it. But here you go. A lesser-known page of the Russo-Ukrainian War is the story of how a bunch of Ukrainian digital pros launched a massive info campaign in February/March 2022 to penetrate Russian propaganda and reach ordinary Russians. It's time you should know this story and learn from it. First, some background. As Russian troops crossed the Ukrainian border on February 24th, Russian official position was to deny everything. Russian TV said there was no war, hence special military operation, or that Ukraine was bombing itself. An Iron Curtain was on. As Ukrainians were evacuating their cities and taking up arms, they had this naive idea that Russian society could and would stop this war. It just needed to know it just needed to know what was actually happening, to know that their sons were needlessly killing and getting killed in Ukraine. Also, the reaction from the West was very disappointing in the first few weeks. Top European politicians refused to act against Russia and preferred to strongly condemn the war in their speeches. That's why, for Ukrainians, the first intuitive step was to talk to Russians. That's how this whole anti-propaganda campaign started. because Ukrainians thought Russians can flood the streets and topple the regime, at least for the sake of their soldiers' lives, if not for us. So what did Ukrainians do exactly? They did what they're good at. They self-organized. Thousands of tech specialists, designers, marketers, and copywriters from top Ukrainian companies organized across their professional communities and started working together to break Russian propaganda and tell ordinary Russians the truth about the war. I was among them. I was too. Actually, I was part of it was called the sort of like the IT army. So in the first weeks of war, I was there were lots of tasks that everybody was like getting, and and the tasks were aimed at both the West and Russia. We did so much in these wild first weeks. We launched multiple info websites before Russian state blocked them. We created banner ads on Russian social media that told the truth about the war. We bought ads online and targeted them at Russians on all possible platforms. We were not some amateurs. Somehow, under bombs, folks managed to meet every couple of days and share insights. See which messages and facts about the war worked better. We looked at CTRs, views, comments, average time before getting blocked, and brainstorm our further steps. I have no idea how much personal savings and crowdfunding money was poured into these online campaigns, but it's safe to say these were thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. We didn't care about the money. We really thought this could help us stop the invasion. This movement was so huge that thousands more ordinary Ukrainians tuned in, telling about the war in reviews on Russian Google Maps, helping to put down Russian state websites, and more. It truly was a big part of the all-Ukrainian resistance. And boy, did we reach ordinary Russians. Our ads and websites were seen by tens of millions of Russians. Here is a screenshot of a Russian complaining that their social media feed is filled with the photos of dead Russian soldiers. Yep, one of our attention grabbers. So this is what I'm going to translate it to you as I go, because this is an actual screenshot from, I think, Vkontakte, which is like a Russian Facebook. And it says, I don't want to write anything. Keeping up with the news, I'm keeping up with the news and trying to understand and trying to evaluate the level of shock. But just for the sake of sociology, I want to ask you here. Tell me, please, is all of your advertisement, I mean, every single one of them, all to one, on Facebook, advertisement taken from sites with dead Russian soldiers, with dead Russian soldiers and calls to come out to the streets against the government? Because I do not see anything else. Literally not a single other advertisement. And this advertisement pops up in between every other post. I want to understand the scale and the volume of this advertisement. And is there anyone in Russia that isn't seeing this on Facebook? And people are responding, yes, me too. So they're not lying. They reached a ton of ordinary Russians. So after breaking the wall of Russian propaganda and reaching tens of millions of ordinary Russians with truth, what did we hear back? Nothing. Silence. After a few impotent protests in big cities, Russians gave us a collective shrug and decided to do nothing. This was the moment of disillusionment for many Ukrainians, the moment when we realized that ordinary Russians were not some hostages of the regime, not bystanders of the war. They were responsible for the war, and they were responsible for allowing it. Ordinary Russians were also the enemy now. This was the last time Ukrainians tried to talk to the ordinary Russians. We all decided to boycott everything and everyone Russian after that. Instead, we focused on helping our armed forces and talking to our partners in the West, our imperfect but true allies. I was learning more about Russian colonialism. I'm eternally grateful to Maxim Eristrave for that. It became crystal clear to me why ordinary Russians were not moved by our anti-propaganda campaign. Invasion and genocide are the basis of Russian statehood. Russians don't want the war to affect them personally and financially, but they support the war. It is war that makes Russia great, and they're poisoned by imperialism minds. That is very true. The fact that Russia is able to wage a war of this scale for 2 years is thanks to ordinary Russians. When months later Navalny said that his organization needed Western money to help ordinary Russians know the truth about the war, I laughed. Russians are perfectly aware of what their army is doing in Ukraine, and they're loving it. And that is also very, very true. I just wish the democratic world came to those realizations as well. If only our partners stopped allowing Russia to abuse international institutions, gave Ukraine the weapons it's been asking for, and took sanctions against Russia seriously, the war would be over. Instead, Western institutions choose to platform Russian propagandists and genocide apologists. Instead, our allies falsely believe that appeasing Russia one more time can bring peace, while it certainly will only bring a next world war closer. There are no comfortable shortcuts to ending this war. The only path to real peace is through Ukraine's victory and Russia's defeat. Arm Ukraine now, double down on sanctions. Everything else, like talking to ordinary Russians, is a dangerous distraction. And I think it is one of the most well put together, well researched, and well explained posts as to why we do not give a shit about ordinary Russians and why we don't trust them, and why Ukrainians are so tired of Russians talking about Ukraine in these big Western publications, because they're speaking on our behalf over us and instead of us about things they don't understand because they have not experienced it. And they're also looking at it from a perspective of someone who is our invader. They're talking about it from a perspective, from an imperial perspective, about the struggles of people, struggles they have never faced themselves. It's kind of like a white person explaining what an African American goes through when they experience racism. I've never experienced racism for being African American because I'm not African American, and I can sympathize with it, but I will never know what it's like, right? Oh, no, Richard Navalny is a piece of shit. He's also a neo-Nazi who's marched in a white supremacy march 5 years in a row and is very proud of it. He's used ethnic slurs for Ukrainians multiple times. He calls us chachli all the time. He's called Georgians rodents. He's disgusting. They made him into this martyr because he's the only viable opposition to Putin, but he doesn't oppose the imperialism. He doesn't oppose the core ugliness of what makes Russia a monster. He opposes Putin because he wants to be Putin. That's the thing. So, Politico wrote that article about how, a Russian Politico wrote an article about how, Ukraine it's time for Ukraine to work with the Russian opposition. So I recorded a video that TikTok censored, which is funny. Instagram and Twitter didn't, but oh well. And I'm going to play it for you because I just don't want to say it over again, but this is my response to Politico for that. People who are in toxic relationships with people who lie, cheat, scheme, and all that, and then they start looking for excuses for their partners to justify them being good by naming the bare minimum they have once done or twice done or done sometime in the distant past to sort of be no, look, they're good. Because these people are looking for redeeming qualities in their toxic, abusive partners, right? This is what you're doing with Russia. Every single time you're trying to find good in Russia, you're literally trying to find the bare minimum of good in a country that is completely and utterly evil. Politico, once again, let a Russian write an article about Ukraine. Only now it's an article telling Ukrainians what we should do and what we owe to Russia. It's time for Ukrainians to start working with the Russian opposition. Before we even get into it, let me point out that these pictures are of Ukrainian wives of Azovstal defenders who have been in captivity for over a year. Politico couldn't find a good image of Russian opposition. You know why? Because in 2 years of the full-scale invasion, they have not once protested against the war in Ukraine. The Russian opposition doesn't exist. It's ineffective, impotent, and inexistent. But more than that, we do not owe Russians anything. The only effective opposition to Russia is the armed forces of Ukraine. And instead of having helped us from the very beginning, 2 years into the war, they're dictating us that we have to work with them. Once again, we don't owe you shit. You and what's going on in your country is your problem. We are fighting your country effectively with our armed forces. Don't support the quasi-Russian opposition because it opposes Putin, but does not oppose the fundamentals of Russian imperialism and what makes Russia a monster. News sources. First and foremost, please stop embarrassing yourselves by letting Russians write these demeaning, condescending, patronizing articles. It's time that you stop giving Russians so much space in the information space to demand more of Ukrainians. Is fighting for our survival because the Russian opposition is useless not enough? Oh, by the way, this is Ksenia Sobchak, Russian opposition, and these are the Russian elite singers. Yeah, that one. And what you're about to see right now is one of them showing off 23 million rubles on her ass. Literally, this video starts with this woman saying, "Have you ever seen 23 million rubles on someone's ass?" Russian elites, everybody. But so another thing that I wanted to say to this is that, you know, Russians have this mistaken belief, obviously, because they're so imperialistic that they believe we owe them things, right? Is, you know, we have this common goal of fighting the regime. We don't have any common goals. Our goal is to get Russia the fuck out of Ukraine. That does not involve us toppling the Russian regime. We don't care for the Russian government. We don't care for what happens within their country. We don't care for what happens in their politics. We don't care who's in power. What we want to do is push them out of our territory and build a metaphorical NATO wall so they could never dare to invade us again, because they're not going to try to invade NATO. They pushed us towards wanting to be in NATO to begin with. We didn't before, you know? The best advertisement for NATO is Russia. But anyways, our goal is to get Russia out of Ukraine. They think we owe it to them to help them get rid of Putin and to help them topple their government. It's like, you do you, boo. We don't owe you anything. You do whatever it is that you need to do in your country for your future with your fucked up government. All we want to do is get you out. That's it. Nothing else. Everything else, not our problem. Literally, your government, your repressions, your torture, your president, your tsar, your corruption, your like the impotency of your leaders. Not our problem. No, battery didn't die. I'm still here. Hello? Yeah. So there is that. Thank you, Michael. Also, hi, Diane. Oh, wait. Grant. So our fundraiser is at, let me tell you. We received a generous donation from Grant. Oh, sorry, I didn't know if I should say. Oh, anyways, plus. So we are now at $1,662.35. So I don't know if I was supposed to say, but I didn't say exactly. You know, I just We are now at $1,662.35. I didn't hear the name. Okay, great. See, if you didn't hear the name, then good. And if a person wanted their name to be heard, then they will tell me. But so yes, if you are someone who hasn't donated yet, but you feel like you can, or you would like to, please do consider donating as well. And thank you, Michael. And every dollar counts. See, New Zealand dollars count. The only thing that doesn't count is please don't send me koalas with chlamydia. And if you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, then you're just gonna have to stick around and see how I talk to Australians on live, and then you'll know. Charity by which God and neighbor are loved is the most perfect friendship. Thomas Aquinas. Oh, that's cute. So Armin is the quote guy. He always writes a quote when he's watching the stream, and these quotes are always very, very on point and relevant to what we're talking to. And I love how many quotes he knows. And it's actually impressive. He's been doing this for like over a year now, because I used to do streams here, and then I stopped for a while. And so one second, Robert. So sorry. So Armin has like countless quotes every stream, sometimes 2 quotes a stream, which is like, bonus. What exactly are we buying with the funds? Drones. So this is a drone initiative. Yes, it is a drone initiative. It's for DJI Mavic 3 Pro drones and batteries. And all of the funds at the end of the fundraiser are going to be transferred to 3rd Separate Assault Brigade, and they will be buying the drones. A couple of my friends serve in 3rd Separate Assault, and so because the fundraiser has been going really slow, and I realized I hope it picks up after Christmas, I haven't really been refreshing the tally on Twitter as often as I normally do, which is usually 4 to 5 hours. But that's also because mostly fundraisers usually go much faster. I do it every day on stream though, but I will start writing the tally again on Twitter. I will do it after this stream because now we still have a few hours before Santa slips down the chimney, right? This fundraiser is going to go on for a little while because obviously we're only at 1/10 of the amount, a little over 1/10. And but yeah, usually I keep the tally on Twitter, and I do a refresh post. The fundraiser is pinned to my Twitter feed, and I also do updates on Instagram and Threads. Not nearly as often as I usually do on Twitter, but I have been doing updates on every stream at the beginning of the stream. So you can keep up with it here too. And and I basically, after every couple of donations, I post an update. So because I feel like that way, it's just like much, it's right there. So I have access to Twitter most of the time. So why not? London Mayor Sadiq Khan agreed to hand over scrapped cars to Ukraine. According to British media, Londoners hand over these cars for recycling under the ULEZ program to reduce harmful emissions into atmosphere, receiving £2,000 for them. If cars that do not meet emission standards are left behind, then additional tax must be paid for them. Earlier, the mayor of Kyiv, Klitschko, asked to transfer them to Ukraine, since many cars, in particular trucks and SUVs, would be useful to Ukrainian armed forces at the front. At the time, Sadiq Khan refused the request, noting that it would not bring economic, social, or environmental benefits to Londoners, but he has now approved the proposal. Yeah. It's funny that he would say it would not bring any economic, social, or whatever benefits to Londoners, because it's not ending up in London, and they're being used for, they're not being scrapped. They're being reworked and refurbished and used at the front. Anyways, I'm so happy that he approved the initiative. If you only see what type of cars our defenders drive in, with the help of some people on Twitter, I got some very cool gifts for some of my friends that are in the armed forces, and they spend a lot of the time in the car, and you'll see it later. But like they don't even have aux. Like, I mean, this is like, oh my gosh, they don't even have aux cords, but they don't, like, the cars are so old. They're like falling apart. They're all mechanical too. Like most of them are not automatic gearbox, they're mechanic. And they're driving stick, and they don't have like aux cords. They don't have anything. It is just like metal on wheels. And so, I frequently talk to my friends, and they're in a car and they're like listening to, I don't know, I'm still Jenny from the block, because it's on the radio. And I'm like, how do you not go crazy? How do you not go crazy? And they're just like, oh, we're used to it. I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, I would actually go crazy if I had to listen to that 24/7. But anyways, that is not the worst thing that could happen. But Putin has been signaling to the West about his readiness for negotiations on Ukraine and a ceasefire, as reported by the New York Times. Despite his public bellicose statements and speeches to generals, Putin is covertly indicating through diplomatic channels his willingness to cease fire. American officials and former Russian officials close to the Kremlin have revealed that since September, Putin has hinted at a readiness for a truce that would halt the fighting while maintaining the already captured territories without retreating a single meter. That's all I have to say. According to sources cited by New York Times, Putin views the current moment as opportune, citing Ukraine's failed counteroffensive and fading Western support. It's funny that fading Western support, Germany is ramping up its support, and a lot of other countries are ramping up its support. It's a propaganda narrative that he wants people to believe in order to force their governments into forcing Ukraine to negotiate. However, some U.S. officials caution that this might be a tactic by the Kremlin to mislead rather than a genuine willingness to compromise. Former Russian officials further suggest that Putin might reverse course if Russian forces gain momentum. Of course, they have never, ever abided by a ceasefire agreement, not in Georgia, not in Moldova, anywhere, not in Chechnya, literally anywhere. Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 were the ceasefire agreements that Russia has every single time not abided by. Despite Putin's efforts, U.S. officials emphasize the need for Ukraine to demonstrate resilience and for the United States to show continued support. Yet, many in the West remain skeptical about a ceasefire, fearing that Putin might use this time to rearm, as highlighted by the New York Times. Yeah, never, ever, ever trust Russia. Even during Christmas time, and of course, during Christmas time. Hi, Kristen. Yes, might be a tactic, but we're talking to we're talking to the West. In most of the times, Western commentators like to say might. Even during Christmas time, Russian terrorists have shown no regard for sanctity. Today, Kherson was heavily shelled, resulting in numerous fires across the city. That's not the festive lights we've wanted to witness during the Christmas. 5 people were injured as a result of the Russian shelling of Kherson. 3 individuals received help on the spot. 2 men were hospitalized in a medical facility. Their condition is assessed by doctors as moderate, reported the head of Regional Military Administration, Prokudin. That's Kherson today. European intelligence allows the possibility of the Russian Federation to attack Europe next winter, says Bild. One of the European intelligence agencies believes, unnamed, this is how Bild reports, believes that Russians can strike Europe at the very moment when the US will be without a leader and will be able to come to the aid of European states only after some delay. Did I remember to charge my laptop? Yes. It is about the period between the resignation of the current US president in early November and the inauguration of his potential successor in January 2025. Well, what if we just keep the president? And that is not going to be a problem. Anyways, that is all I have for you for today. I would not take this news seriously. I think that right now is just, how is Russia going to attack Europe? Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, they mean when like the president doesn't really, when they're not really like doing much in the cabinet, they're just kind of, setting up to leave. But oh well. Congress approves military action. Yeah. But that is, we're talking about Bild. We're talking about Bild. But also in general, I just wouldn't take, Russia will attack Europe seriously. I'm assuming Yulia is taking a couple of days off for Christmas. Mwahaha, that's a funny joke, Grumpy. I'm not taking time for Christmas, really. I'm not taking time off for Christmas. I'm actually I'm gonna do a live tomorrow. Christmas Day, I might take a day off, but Christmas Eve, I don't think so. I'm always working, Grumpy, and I have to pack and all this stuff. And I've been wanting to, so I'm not getting any presents under the Christmas tree this year because I'm not, at least not in the US. And I am likely going to go get myself a present. I want to we'll see, but I want to get this thing, which is really cool. So, I love film cameras and I have like a ton of Polaroids and like yada yada, but I can't bring all of my Polaroids with me because that's just a lot of shit to bring. So I want to get this tiny little Instax printer, which I think is such a cool thing because you can send photos. You have a Christmas tree? You're not? Yeah, no, I'm not. And it's basically the small portable thing, and you can bring it with you, and it prints. So this is a wide one. I don't want a wide one. It's like this is it. Found it. So it's this like, you basically connect your phone to it and you can print any type of pictures from it. And it's like the one, it's like a mini printer type of thing. But it prints on Polaroids, like on Instax, on Fuji paper. But you can like print stuff from your phone, which is so much more convenient because sometimes like, I don't know, I can take a photo on a different camera and just print it there, or take a photo, it's just cool. It's cool, and that's all it is. Yeah. Congress does not approve Article 5 issues. There is a law that regulates it. Well, technically, Congress already approved the possible response. Yeah, but that's the thing. That's the thing. What's its face? Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be, it's not going to. First of all, there is no such thing as like, while the US has no leader. Second of all, it's Russia is Russia. Russia is, Russia has always been Russia, and Russia is not going to attack Europe. That's just, that's ludicrous. How much is it? Karine, I can send you a link if you want, and it's on sale for $89.95. Actually, that's nice. It was $99.95 yesterday. And pay the credit card. Yeah, you guys go do that. Anyways, good night. Well, actually, no, I'm going to tell you Merry Christmas tomorrow because I'm going to be on live. After I go finish some errands, clean the house, pack some more, record the podcast because Robbie is almost done scripting it. Yeah, that's about it. Okay. All right. Bye. Bye. It's not on my wish list, Odin. Don't lose your mind. I won't. Okay. Bye. And maybe film Cindy sleeping for us. Okay, I will do that. I will film Cindy sleeping. Bye. Oh, night, Paul.